Video games are the strangest form of media. Movies, TV shows, and books generally have one set genre or plot for a series, whereas games kind of tend to go all over the place. For example, let's take Mario. Mario is about a plumber that eats mushrooms to get big and saves a princess. But then sometimes, he's a doctor. He also travels through time, races go-karts, is a painter, teaches typing, and goes to the Olympics. And he goes to the Olympics because he's a professional in every single sport ever made. And we just accept like that's all normal for an ordinary mustache and overall clad plumber man. But what if we said the next Mission Impossible movie had nothing to do with the secret agent spy world and instead was just about how Ethan Hunt really likes tennis? And that is all just a big convoluted way to say how wacky video games can be. Of course, when you play Mario Tennis, you expect to play a game about tennis. But there was an era that I wanted to say was not long ago, but as I'm hurling towards 30 at an alarming rate, I realized that it was a pretty long time ago. So a long time ago, we were in an era where these silly little modes would be slipped into your standard game as bonus content. A time I would like to call the Wacky Extra Side Mode era. So back in the days of the PlayStation 2, it was fairly common to pick up a game that had a deep, serious narrative, and then while scrolling through the menus, find something completely bizarre to play. No, I'm not talking about something like Big Head Mode. I'm talking like real wacky. Like, does a shoe go on my head wacky? Okay, so now that we found our barometer of wackiness, I've compiled a list of regular, unassuming video games from this era that each contain a silly little secret mode or two. And we can start by jumping into what I would consider the most serious on the list, Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance. MGS2 Substance is kind of like a director's cut version of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. This version came packed with additional content, and one of those pieces of additional content was used as cross-promotion for another one of Konami's games, Evolution Skateboarding. A game that I think I have mentioned once before, but I can't find it in my Rolodex of references I've used across all these videos. Maybe I'll remember it later. All you really need to know about it is that it's a Tony Hawk's clone. A Tony Hawk's clone that, even as a child, made me think, this isn't as good as Tony Hawk's, and it's weird. Why did it have a boss battle against a tank? Trying to think about that too much. Early 2000s Konami was kind of a fever dream. But this cross-promotional game mode that does pretty much zero promoting, because it doesn't mention the other game at all, is titled Skateboarding. And it sees either Snake or Raiden skateboarding on an oil rig that I think the actual game of MGS2 takes place on. But I have no idea, my Metal Gear knowledge doesn't get past the first 10 minutes of Metal Gear Solid 1. To talk about this game would actually be a mini review of Evolution Skateboarding. It's a game set up like Tony Hawk's control-wise at least, but it's much stiffer and slower feeling. And the rotations are locked to the back triggers for some reason. Also, you can barely get enough air to do any tricks without bailing, and the rails are nearly impossible to hit. But it's not entirely bad as far as Tony Hawk's clones go. It's actually one of the more competent ones. This demo has a decent set of goals and really good level design. Good enough that it made it into the full game. The controls are surprisingly competent. You'd be surprised how many skateboarding games have been ruined by not just sticking with what works. Even though this is just a demo for another game disguised as a side mode, it has no right to be as good as it is for a throwaway side mode in a Metal Gear Solid game. Plus you get to see this guy rip some sick tricks on a skateboard. Now of course this wouldn't be one of my videos without a reference to, let's all say it together, Spider-Man the movie game. But you're not going to believe this. For the first time ever, I'm actually going to talk about the game. Well, not the whole game, just the wacky little side mode in it. Unlockable through the story or much faster with cheat codes, you can gain access to the wacky side mode, Pinhead Bowling. This is a full 10-frame bowling game inside of a ginormous bowling alley, but instead of regular bowling, Spider-Man swings down the lanes and kicks over the pins that are just webbed up thugs. And these thugs would be the pinheads referred to in the title.
All right, Pinhead, your time is up.
Who you calling Pinhead?
There isn't much to this. It's just a bowling game, but it's impossible to get a good score on because this game had the world's stiffest swinging. But it is wacky. I mean, Spider-Man bowling aside, just look at how massive the bowling alley is compared to Spider-Man. This is also an up to 4-player multiplayer mode, which is great if you have 3 other friends and literally nothing else to play and live nowhere near a bowling alley. Now that last thing has nothing to do with the wackiness level. I'm just padding out the script, to be honest. But we need to get on to our next goofy mode, and that would also be a multiplayer mode. The secret multiplayer mode in Enter the Matrix. Now this one is definitely the least mode of the group, because we're really just talking about one stage in the mode, and it wouldn't even be on this list if I remembered how ass it was to unlock. The multiplayer mode is unlocked through a hacking console after doing a series of puzzles. It's about 10 steps or so that you can probably get through if you follow a guide like I did. But if you do somehow finally make it to the end, surviving all of that, you'll be rewarded in the most not worth it way possible. Because you're given access to a full fighting game where you fight matches from the movies with pre-selected characters. And also some wacky ones that aren't a part of the movies at all. Which is why it's in this video. But what makes it even wackier is these are only multiplayer. You can't play them single player. Each character has to be controlled by a human. 2 of these fights are not from the movies. One of them does feature characters from the main game, and after doing my research, isn't actually as wacky as I thought it was. Because the fight is Cujo versus Vlad, a werewolf versus a vampire. But I guess those are just a part of the Matrix? So look, we're back in the Metal Gear territory. I watched Matrix when I was like 8 years old maybe, and I was only allowed to watch the first one and the third one, because I think the second one had a boob in it or something. Oh, never mind. It's just Keanu Reeves' cheeks. And I've never gone back to watch any of these as an adult, because I guess I just don't care about the franchise. But people sure seem to think I do because they keep gifting me DVD copies of it. I didn't buy any of these. Well, anyway, this mode is wacky because you can fight cars. Cars that stand up on their back wheels like human people. And fist fight, but with their wheels instead of fists, like human people. That's it. It's just fist fighting cars. Now you may be thinking I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel already with a mode that has a single funny fight in it. And you may also be asking if fighting cars is even that wacky. Because we've all seen the adventures of Shia LaBeouf and his Robo-Pals. And to that I say, it's a shallow barrel. It's really more of a bucket. But also, we're not done yet. We're just about to enter the fighting game portion of the evening. First off, with one that actually was on the PlayStation, not the PlayStation 2. But I made the video, so I can break the rules. You certainly can't stop me. I'm inside of a screen. The game I'm talking about is Tekken 3, because of its Tekken Ball mode. This is still a semi-fighting mode because it's still one-on-one throwing punches, but you're punching a ball. The goal is to deplete your opponent's health by either letting the ball hit the ground on their side of the line, or hitting them with the ball. But this isn't just Pong with a tiger head man. Why would you think that? That would be ridiculous. This is Pong, but you can also go over and push your opponent down as a prank so they miss the ball. That's right. It's Pong, but I got nothing. It's just Pong. But apparently people really like Pong because they're bringing it back in Tekken 8. So anyways, we're on to the last one. And this is where the whole idea for this video even came from. And is also a bit of a two-for-one. Now, I'm not talking about what I call my son's teeth. I call those teefers, not twofers. I'm talking about Mortal Kombat Deception and Armageddon. 2 games that I would consider the golden age of Mortal Kombat games. And both of these featured some wacky little side modes. Deception featured both puzzle combat and chess combat. We won't really be talking about puzzle combat today because Street Fighter made an entire game about it, and it doesn't seem that wacky. It's just kind of Tetris, but under the board on the bottom of the screen, Scorpion is pushing Sub-Zero down and making him eat dirt. But chess combat, now that's wacky. Chess combat is a full chessboard that you play with all the rules of chess, and also some added abilities. And all these abilities come from your 2 sorcerer characters that can cast spells like teleportation or resurrection or just straight up killing another piece. But the really interesting thing about chess combat is when you get to the jumping over a piece to claim a space part that probably has a technical name, but I have no idea what it is because I know the bare minimum of chess. You instead have a full Mortal Kombat fight to decide who gets to keep the space. It's just a fun twist on Mortal Kombat and chess. But my personal favorite of these comes from Mortal Kombat Armageddon, and that is Motor Combat. Motor Combat is Mario Kart with Mortal Kombat characters. They have item pickups specific to each character. For instance, Scorpion has his spear that he can pull people back behind him, and Johnny Cage has his green goo. Probably should have thought of a better name for that one. There's also boost icons on the track and coins to pick up for the main game. But we're not talking about the main game, because it's nothing compared to Motor Combat. This mode also has multiple characters, like way more than you should ever expect there to be, and a handful of tracks that are designed really well. The racing also feels surprisingly competent, and this is where most kart racers struggle. They just don't feel good. But this little side mode in a Mortal Kombat game somehow nailed its kart handling. So this one is a little bit of a nostalgia pick for me also. As someone who didn't have a Nintendo console or access to a Mario Kart game for the better part of their childhood, this one's substituted for a pretty long time, so I have a bit of a nostalgic feel towards it. But I think this is where I'm going to leave off this topic. The PlayStation 2 era is kind of a special time in gaming that we will never experience anything like ever again. It was serious, but it was also weird. Not like PlayStation 3 weird, but it was weird. Now, I do know for a fact that I did not touch on every single weird, wacky, silly, or just plain strange game mode that there is in this era, or even in future eras. This is kind of a hard topic to research. So if there's something I missed from this era, or any other that you think I should cover, go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know. Maybe we can do a part 2 to this down the road somewhere. Or go ahead and comment anything else you'd like me to talk about. Or comment your home address and which windows you leave unlocked at night. But most importantly, please subscribe, because it helps me out tremendously. But for once, it actually helps you, because I have a petition going right now that if I get enough subscribers, Konami has agreed to put Solid Snake on a ripstick. And that's definitely true information, and I know you want to see that as much as I do. So hit that button, let's help each other out. Also, you can go to here or at the link in the description to buy a t-shirt, and go play some wacky games.